Hello my perfume friends, it's Kat and I'm back today to talk about maceration. What does that mean? What is it? Why? How? What's the deal? So I have been really into Middle Eastern fragrances over the past, say, 6 months because I find them to be a really affordable way to try a variety of fragrances that are generally very high quality, often dupes for more expensive brands that I personally can't afford. So it's a really great way to have sort of a fun, ever sort of evolving fragrance collection that I can have fun with. Now, one thing I've noticed, which is really interesting about Middle Eastern fragrances, in particular, can happen with other fragrances as well, is that sometimes when you open them and you use them, they don't smell what could be its full potential. So the point of this video is to tell you which fragrances I am holding off to macerate, and I want to check back in 6 months time and tell you, have they gotten any better? So that's the point of this video, but I'm going to start by giving you a rough general understanding of what maceration is. I did look a little bit into it a while ago, and apparently it's the wrong use of the term anyway, but it's just sort of a term that has taken hold in the fragrance community, and it essentially means that when you open a new bottle of fragrance, and again, happens a lot with Middle Eastern fragrances, often what you smell when you first spray it is not the fragrance's full potential. So Noble Blush by Lattafa is an example of one of my most recent Middle Eastern fragrance purchases. Now, out of the box, I really like the smell of this. I'll do a review soon, but I like to give them a good week or so to sort of settle in. Once you've sprayed it, spray it on yourself, you can even spray it in the air, some oxygen has gone into the bottle. What it starts to do is sort of just develop a little bit. Now, some fragrances may smell very, very strongly of alcohol or some sharp notes that you don't really like, and you find that once you've used it a couple of times and you've let it sort of sit in a drawer for a week, you try it again and you really like it. I had a fragrance a little while ago that smelled very, very strongly of alcohol, was very hard to deal with, and then over a week, I'd spray it occasionally and it became fruitier and sweeter. And I was like, oh my God, this is a whole transformation. So I'm not going to review this until it's sort of sat around for a week, just to make sure that what I'm smelling is more accurate of what the fragrance is supposed to smell like. So that's just the tip of the iceberg with maceration. There is also fragrances that people report that after like 6 to 12 months of letting it sit and occasionally spraying it so it gets the oxygen in the bottle, the scent has just become a lot stronger, longer lasting, maybe a little bit smoother or sort of sweeter if it's a gourmand, for example. So these sort of fragrances need a little bit of time to mature once it's got some oxygen in the bottle to really see the full potential and the full wear and the strength of the fragrance. Now, you might be wondering, why does this happen mainly with Middle Eastern fragrances? And from what I understand is for them to keep the costs so low compared to like niche fragrances or designer fragrances, they actually just make these and ship them out straight away. So it isn't given the time to go through that maceration or that aging process, whereas you might find with more expensive brands, designer brands, niche brands, they take the time to let it sit for like 6 months to 12 months, just to let the fragrance reach its full potential before they sell it. Now, that process is sort of like aged alcohol. It is expensive. It's expensive to store them for that length of time. So one of the reasons why Middle Eastern fragrances are very high quality but at much a more affordable price point is because they don't do that process before they sell it. It's something that you sort of have to do at home. So what I'm doing today is I'm going through some fragrances that I personally am holding aside to macerate. I've got them on a shelf in a dark corner, occasionally spray them, and I'm hoping to see them develop and hopefully like them more over the next 6 months. So the goal is that in 6 months time, I'm going to reflect on this video and I'm going to tell you ultimately what I think about the fragrances after I've given them a good amount of time to macerate or develop in scent. Now, the first one I'm planning on doing that with is one that I still do use. So this is one that I find quite easy to use, but I want to see it at its full potential. I feel like it's got better potential than it currently has. So this is by Fragrance World. It's from the coffee collection and it is Caramel Macchiato. Now, I got this on sale. I think it was pretty cheap. It was under 40 Australian dollars in Black Friday sales. Now, this is a caramel coffee scent. but it smells very alcoholish to me. Like it smells like cheap coffee liqueur, like really cheap, sharp. And I feel like, it smells like really, really old, cheap cologne. And then it settles down to slightly like a sweeter scent. I was sort of willing to just be like, oh, this was a fail. But then I wore this the other day and I would get these whiffs of this beautiful caramel smell. And I was like, what is that? What is that? Oh, it's this. I was shocked because it is so harsh and so cheap smelling and so alcohol smelling at the start. But I realized that it does have this beautiful dry down that is quite niche smelling. It's just hidden behind this like sharp alcohol nastiness. So I have a feeling that if I let this one macerate, I feel like it's going to just develop and become a lot smoother and a lot nicer, and those sort of caramel notes coming out a lot more. So I'm hoping, because the dry down of this is beautiful, quite subtle, but beautiful, but the opening, oh, it is an like cologne, like cheap cologne alcohol bomb, which is not nice. So that is the first one I'm going to check back on. One that I have already had macerating for about 6 months, and I'm going to let it macerate for another 6 months, is Camilla by Lattafa. So this is a very popular one. Again, I've got the box. That's how much I've got so much faith in it that I've kept the box. Also, the lid is just jacked up with this one. It doesn't hold the lid. This one is very spicy. It's got dates, which make it very sweet. But to me, it is very, very strong, and it's notoriously a strong fragrance. So I just wanted to try it because I was curious, because everyone talks about it and I want to see what the whole deal was. And for me, I can wear it only for a couple of hours and then it becomes a little bit headache inducing. I bought this at the end of winter and I found it very hard to use. We're in summer at the moment in Australia, so this is obviously something that's not appropriate for summer weather. It is just far too strong and cloying and headache inducing, but I'm hoping if I hold on to it for next winter, it might have developed enough that I like it, or at least I can give it a proper shot because it's winter. So that's why I'm holding on to this. The third fragrance that I'm holding out to see how it goes is Neous. This is also by Lattafa. This is one that I've had it for a few months, but I have noticed it changing over that time. It's getting a little bit more fresh, which is interesting. So some people say it's got a bit of a mint note. It does have like, I think it's got like berries and chocolate and stuff like that. But some people say they can smell mint. I couldn't at the start. I do now. So I'm hoping that this is going to develop into something that I like. Right now, it's like a mix of scents that, in my opinion, clash and sort of just don't sit very well on me. It almost smells a little bit soapy. So I am curious to see how this one develops over the next 6 months as well. This next one is actually not a Middle Eastern fragrance. I'm just hoping that I can make this work. It is Unknown Pleasures by Kerosene. Now, again, I got this quite a few months ago, but there's something about it that just doesn't sit well on my skin. People describe this as smelling very gourmand, like a lemony sort of tea dessert. I get very sharp lemon tea and then like some curry notes. It's very odd. One person in the comments when I talked about some disappointing blind buys I made, and I mentioned this, they said that they held on to this for a year, and after a year they started smelling those delicious notes that other people reported smelling. So I am hoping that I've held on to it this long, like let's just give it a try. Does this develop into a beautiful gourmand, or does it stay smelling like curry tea lemon on me? I don't know, we'll see. Miracles can happen. The next one is a disappointing, very, very recent blind buy that I was very excited about. This is Her Confession from Lattafa. Now, again, I bought this at the same time as Noble Blush, so I'm waiting for this to sort of develop and see if after a week, maybe it settles down a little bit. Maybe if it doesn't, let's see after 6 months, does it develop in a better way? On me, this is a white floral tuberose bomb. It's so white floral strong. It's actually headache inducing. It's given me headaches where I've had to take medication and lie down. That's how like annoying this is. It then has like a musky quality to it. There is some sort of dry down where some vanillas come out, but I can't get over how strong the white florals are. Now, when I read reviews, so many people say that this is really beautiful and sort of milky and vanilla-y and a little bit soapy and clean. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. I don't smell it. I smell a bouquet of tuberose flowers in my face. And I tried this just before to see if it's getting any better, and I had to scrub it off my arms because it's that yuck. But I'm hoping with vanilla notes, I know vanilla notes do develop over time. The creamy notes tend to develop over time, become richer. I'm hoping that I try this all of a sudden and I'm like, wait, this is so beautifully balanced. The tuberose is calming the hell down and sitting down over there, and I'm getting some of the other notes coming through and creating a really beautifully balanced fragrance. But I'm not sure. So this is one that I'm going to be monitoring fairly closely because I do want to review it, but it's one that I'm willing to give 6 months and reflect on before I decide to pass it on. So those are my 5 fragrances that I'm going to macerate over the next 6 months and check back in and reflect on how they go. I am aware that some people might, any changes that I might notice, some people might attribute to weather. So it is currently hot right now in Australia, in Melbourne, but obviously in 6 months' time, it is going to be the opposite season. It's going to be winter. So they're going to smell very different. And a lot of these I would consider to be more cooler weather fragrances. They're not working on me right now. However, I have had them since cooler weather last year. So besides Her Confession, a lot of these have been kicking around for quite a few months, and I haven't only smelt in summer. I have smelt them throughout the year and I still haven't really liked them. So I'm just going to see if that extra time that I give them to sort of mature and develop, see if that will make a difference. And if not, they're going. Let me know your experiences with maceration. Have you tried a fragrance that you really didn't like and then you changed your mind after a while? I've only personally experienced it in a short time frame. So as soon as you let the oxygen in and it sort of develops over about a week, I have noticed a few fragrances become a lot better, but I haven't noticed any huge changes over like 6 months to a year. So that's why I'm really curious about this project, and I'd really love to know your experiences. So I'll chat to you in the comments. Bye.